I deserve to be famous, damn it! Shawn shouted confidently. He was wearing his headphones, so likely anything he wanted to say would have been shouted, but I deserve to be famous, damn it, was something that he felt deserved shouting even without the music blasting in his ears. This was something that he believed. He was a musician. He was an effing great musician, and he deserved to be famous. Damn it. I'm Neil A. Yeager, and today I'm reading from my novel, Non-Hollywood. Check the text below this video for more books and music by me. This is Chapter 12, Networking, Part 1. Shawn was pretty hyper this morning, as he was pretty much every morning, every afternoon, and every evening, and he bounced on his toes like a prize fighter. Actually, in this instance, his bouncing was completely appropriate, given that he was wearing boxing gloves and doing his bouncing in the vicinity of an extra tall punching bag. He was glad that his hands were wrapped in those thick gloves, as he wouldn't want to injure his guitar-playing fingers and disappoint his 150,127 followers. Well, actually, 127 followers. Or his mom and her friends, whatever, no matter. This whole music business thing was complicated. Learning how to play the guitar, well, that had been something which had happened naturally when he was in high school, back in Wisconsin. Shawn played pretty well, and he sang pretty well, but the actual business part of the music business, that was turning out to be tricky. And though he admired the folks who were going at it as indie, it seemed to him that the people on the radio, the people selling millions, the people with monster concerts and busloads of groupies, those people were still part of the major label system. And how do you get into that system? It seemed to Shawn that it was the same way that people had always gotten into that system. Connections. Networking. With a huge grin on his face, Shawn brought his leg up and slammed the bag with a roundhouse kick. Whap! Feeling the satisfaction of this, he timed his kicks along with his exclamations. I, whap, deserve, whap, to be, whap, famous, whap. Damn it, whap, whap. No one disagreed with him. Of course, no one agreed with him either, as he was all by himself in the kickboxing studio. This, despite the fact that he traveled the farthest to get to this class, a long commute from the valley to Malibu, whose canyon grades threatened to kill his ancient vehicle. He was inevitably always the first one here. In the short time that he had been working out at this place, he had already discovered that the schedule didn't seem to mean much to the rich folks of Malibu. They just showed up whenever they felt like showing up. And oh, how he ached to be one of them. So, he always showed up early, never wanting to miss the opportunity to already be here when somebody who might help his career should come walking through the door, and he could do some networking. He also wanted to be one of them himself, the famous rock star who all the people like his current self clamored to meet. He even practiced his autograph signing on a regular basis. Despite all that a musician could do online these days, Shawn was convinced that the true path to fame was still in the old saying, it's all in who you know. And he knew it was only a matter of time before he met that one contact who would make his dreams a reality. Just have to stick with it. He switched from kicking the bag to punching the bag. I, thump, deserve, thump, to be, thump, famous, thump. Damn it, thump, thump. He had joined this gym in Malibu, which cost way more than he could afford and was located far too far away from the place he shared in Van Nuys, because he had read in one of those entertainment magazines that some of Hollywood's biggest hot young movie stars and rock stars worked out here. Here being a kickboxing studio run by a former Hollywood stuntman. Shawn was a bit confused though, as he didn't seem to have gotten into the Hot Young Stars class. Rather, he must instead be in the Trophy Wives class, as all he had met so far were a bunch of rich guys' wives. Gorgeous women who didn't work, who had housekeepers to clean their houses, and who had nannies to raise their kids. So, basically, these women were left with all the time they needed to stay in incredibly fantastic shape. He envied them. Obviously, these women weren't the people Sean was targeting. Yet still, it wasn't as though there was no benefit in knowing the rich guys' wives. After all, that might be a way for Sean to meet some of the rich guys themselves. He'd already met one woman whose husband was an executive at one of the major movie studios. So really, who knows? Who the hell knows? He shouted to the room. Then turned to find that he was no longer alone in the studio. The woman who had joined him was giving him the sort of look that implied that she questioned his sanity. He smiled even wider and said, "Hi, Amanda." Sean was excellent at remembering names. "Didn't see you there. Sorry if I sounded, musicians. People usually think that we're all just brain-blown insane. But not me, dude. No crazy train here, right? Yeah?" Amanda, whose husband had that vague and slightly fishy-sounding job description of investment banker, replied in a disinterested sort of tone. "Well, you're certainly chipper today." "Actually, Amanda," Sean had read books on networking, and he knew that repetition was key to remembering people's names. "I'm chipper pretty much every day. And I don't," he added conspiratorially, "even drink coffee." Amanda flashed Sean a very quick and very fake smile, and then turned her attention to the phone in her hand. The instructor entered the room, not the former stuntman who owned the place and whose face was featured along with various celebrities in about 1 million photos scattered around the place. That guy wasn't the one who actually taught the classes. The teaching was left to an assortment of former and current pro kickboxers and a couple of movie fight choreographers. Since Sean was still fairly new, he wasn't sure which variety this particular instructor called his own. Probably the choreography crowd, as he was merely in fantastic shape rather than the rock-hard shape of some of the other guys Sean had seen leading classes. Sean glanced at Amanda and saw, at least he was pretty sure that he saw, Amanda checking out the instructor. Sean suddenly wondered if these instructor types ever ended up hooking up with these Malibu wives. The women certainly had the time on their hands. "Really makes you wonder." "What was that?" asked the instructor. Sean must have been mumbling aloud. "Oh, nothing. Just lost in thought, thinking, yeah." Returning to those thoughts, Sean wondered if maybe he had a shot with any of these women. Oh, but wait, that would probably be a bad idea. The rich guys probably wouldn't be inclined to help him out if they found out that he was the one making sneaky with their wives. Also, was it true that rich guys knew who to hire when they wanted someone killed? Damn, he didn't want that. As a few more women entered the room, the instructor said, "You guys can go ahead and get warmed up if you want to." Though he wasn't the one being spoken to, Sean replied, "Warm and ready to go, 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 go." And at that, he began singing the word "go" repeatedly to the tune of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Go, 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 go. The women kind of blinked at him. One said, "Man, somebody's had some coffee today." "He doesn't drink coffee," said Amanda. "Cocaine?" asked another woman. "Neither one. But I like coffee shops," said Sean. "But people do look at you kind of weird when you go into a coffee shop and don't get coffee. But dude, what I like is hot chocolate. Screw coffee. Hot chocolate rocks." The instructor called the class together and they started some warm-up stretches. As they stretched, more people came filtering in, as they would up until practically the end of class. At 1:15, the only other male of the group strolled in. This was Bob, who had some kind of an empire based on strawberries from nearby Ventura County. Not exactly the type that Sean was looking to meet, but definitely not one to be ruled out. After all, successful guys hang out with other successful guys, right? Sean remembered seeing an interview with the late great producer-director Stanley Kramer, who did The Caine Mutiny, Judgment at Nuremberg, Inherit the Wind, and several other of the greatest films ever, who said that he raised funding for those films by going out to orange farmers and convincing them to invest. So hey, a strawberry king? Don't rule him out. Maybe a dude like that could do something for an up-and-coming musician. Who knows? Hey, Bob, Sean called out. You ready to smack the hell out of something? Bob merely gave Sean a polite smile and a nod. Then he headed off for a punching bag at the opposite side of the room from Sean. Had Sean been a little more self-aware, he might have noticed that people tended to do that sort of thing a lot when he was around. And so the workout went on, and each time that a new person appeared in the doorway, Sean would crane his neck to see the identity. But just as with the prior classes, the promised big famous celebrities failed to appear. It was a bit disappointing to see that his substantial monetary investment in this place was failing to produce hot young celebrities, or even anyone halfway famous for that matter. Hell, he would have settled for a sitcom actor from the 80s. Still, he wouldn't let it get him down. This was an investment, and investments need time to mature. As class was breaking up, he called out to the group, "Anybody up for coffee? Group activity?" Bob replied, "I don't know about anybody else, but personally, after that workout, I think I smell a little too bad to be someplace where people are trying to eat and drink." "I second that," said Amanda. And one by one, they all turned Sean down. In the end, he just got back into his aging car, Ramona, and started the long drive back to the valley. He wasn't the least bit dejected, though. He knew it was only a matter of meeting the right person, that one right contact, and he was in there hanging with the big boys. After all, he deserved to be famous. Damn it.
No more.